Guess who's back? How did you both fare without me? I know it must have been torturous, hellish, you know.
And British.
British and nasty and short.
Hobetian states,
A
to say the
Hobetian
least.
state without me.
Oliver Modi, it's good to have you back.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be back.
It's always great to have that female energy.
Yes.
And beyond the female energy, the things you bring to the show, the intellectual depth, the banter, it's amazing.
It's phenomenal.
And we're thankful to God to have a colleague like you on Breakfast
And can
Central.
I use this opportunity to join the rest of the world to wish you, my friend, a very happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Happy
I really
birthday,
appreciate it. And thank you for that call yesterday. It meant a lot to me. I do appreciate it. And hope you had a fantastic
I had a fantastic birthday celebration, and I'm glad to be back.
Yeah.
And I also want to shout out to Doc Zero, who turned 40. Happy birthday. Now we're starting Breakfast Central. Back-to-back birthday celebrations.
Somebody is out of
Somebody's
the
feeling left out.
Yes.
I know. Sorry. God will do your own for you. Good morning and welcome to Breakfast Central. And if you're just tuning in, well, you haven't missed so much apart from all the celebrations that we've had to do here. My name is Olive Emodia. For the next 3 hours, we'll be looking at the biggest stories in Nigeria's news. My enemies are coming after me. We'll be looking at the biggest stories in Nigeria's political landscape, and we urge you to stick around, join us, engage with us. We'll open the phone lines to give you an opportunity to share your thoughts on any of the stories as well. You're welcome.
And I'm Benga Boro. You know how we do here on Breakfast Central. This is the right place to start your day. Insightful conversations, analysis. We also welcome your contributions. You can call in during our newspaper review segment and share your thoughts with us on any of the biggest stories. You're welcome to Breakfast Central, and I can't wait for us to kick things off. There's a lot to talk about, especially on Wake Up Conversations.
Absolutely.
Are you guys done?
We're done.
We are done.
No, continue.
No, you have the floor. You have the floor. You have the floor.
Please, Honorable, speak on your mic.
Off your mic. Anyway, they've said it all, and we're happy to be here. Welcome back, Olive, by the way.
Thank you so much.
Did we miss Olive? Yeah, maybe. Let's do it.
Right, you missed me.
In between.
Because I watched the show while I was away, and I was like, look at my guys.
They're struggling. They can't cope.
Yeah, did you notice that sometimes I get really emotional? Like red eye.
You were weeping now.
Because you weren't here.
Yeah, it's not like you're trying to pretend for the audience that you didn't miss me. You two of you. But I understand.
Anyway.
Okay, let's move on.
It's good to have you back, and welcome.
Thank
and to all our viewers, thanks for tuning in. It's another day, yet it's Thursday. How quick time flies. This week ran very quickly.
Not only just Thursday, it's the last day.
It's the last day in the month.
Oh yeah.
So 7th month
of July.
We have 5 months.
So expect those WhatsApp messages tomorrow. Happy New Month.
Happy New Month. And
Wow.
if you mistakenly post some things on your WhatsApp, they say, Alpha, can I see?
And this is the time when billing will come in. So be on guard.
So you know how it works. but it's good to be back. Sadly, while we are indeed counting down to a new month, which happens to be tomorrow, today is the last day, as Oliver's also highlighted. Today being the last day in the month of July also falls under a day where the nurses have decided to embark on a warning strike. And they've said that should the federal government not do anything, they would decide to go on an indefinite strike. Now, this is just one of the many challenges Nigeria is facing, especially from the health sector. It pretty much seems like the health sector is completely struggling. When you say struggling, they're indeed struggling, from the nurses to the doctors. Not forget the resident doctors as well.
Trainees are suffering.
Trainees, everybody's suffering.
Working conditions.
Bro,
just name it.
It's tough.
Yeah.
You know.
They need to declare a health.
It's tough.
A state of emergency.
It's really tough.
In the health
If we
sector.
want to start declaring state of emergencies, there's so many sectors that we need to declare state
Nigerian
of emergency.
police do need state of emergency.
Exactly. I was going to say law enforcement, we need to declare state of emergency there. Our health sector, we need a state of emergency declaration. There are too many areas. Even with power consumption, you know, internet consumption, a lot of these telecom operators, the way they are drinking our data,
straw.
they are using big pipe. The straw is they are using big pipe. You load what you would.
Are they using pipe or they're using truck? Once
You load and then everything is just
and
it's just
the way the data runs.
It's crazy because now that people's purchasing power is dropping, it's when all these things are increasing on them. So how do people find that balance with being able to afford data and not just afford the basic necessities? But not only are all these people, you know, affected and certain people going on strike, Certain other people might not be resuming work because they've received suspension from the governor of the state
What could have
without
happened?
1 month pay. Now, the report is that they did not attend a government function, and as a result, this was a disciplinary action. It was initially interpreted as them not having attended the governor's daughter's birthday, which was then, reported. And then they said it was because they did not attend a government function, a function that was called by the governor. So this was a disciplinary measure to send a message to the rest of them that government work is not a joke. And if they call for a government event, you're not supposed to be in your house
I
chilling.
want to get the full picture before I react. Could we see, is there a video to this?
No, not
Well,
really.
no, we don't really have. We don't have a video.
But, I mean, government is
It's
there are
just,
different
complete.
agencies, parastatals, and government work is continuous. There's a government function every single day, and people have their departments and agencies and ministries that they man. So you don't expect all government officials to leave
What they're
their
doing.
own responsibility to keep, I mean,
And it
you weren't
depends on
appointed
whether it's-
to attend functions. If you're not a key stakeholder, for example, if it's a road, if you're talking about road safety and road, you need people from the Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Works and things like that, not people from Ministry of Solid Minerals or women development or emergency and things like that.
Pretend.
People have their functions, so I'm not really sure this isn't.
Now, there are 25 commissioners, 14 senior special assistants, 24 special assistants, and 22 permanent secretaries are those affected in the suspension. Now, according to the statement that was released, the suspension took immediate effect, adding that suspended officials were barred from signing any official documents during the period. Commissioners were instructed to hand over to their respective permanent secretaries. And the governor of Ebonyi State, Right Honorable Francis Ogbonna-Nwifuru, has directed that the underlisted government functionaries proceed on 1 month working suspension without salary for failure to attend an important government function.
What is the
statement
important
read,
government function?
that we do not know. He said he maintained that the governor remained firm in ensuring all government officials uphold the highest standards of conduct and dedication in serving the people of Ebonyi State. According to him, so this is the State ABC chairman, Chief Stanley Okoro Emega, said the governor's move was a punishment for negligence of duty. And according to him, he said, this is a punishment for negligence of duty and snubbing the governor's program. It is also for coming late to an event called by the government. The truth is that this has served as a big lesson to those suspended and others. So these are, some of the people who are reacting to this, stating that, it says, this is one of the commissioners suspended. He said, a birthday that was more of a church Thanksgiving. He claimed we were mandated to attend, and that led to our suspension. The manipulator has messed up with Unabi.
Well, I don't want to believe this.
Please, can we put the list? This is
commissioner.
Oguzo Kanu, Ofia, and Wale. Let's put back the list of those who were
It wouldn't
suspended.
do this.
And then let's look for his name.
That's
Mwafili
it,
is number
number
9. Chief Oguzo Ofia Wale.
It has to be verified.
I want to imagine
'cause
that.
He hasn't handed in his resignation, and for you as a serving commissioner to say such a thing to your principal is
No.
at the level of commissioner.
So, no.
To call him manipulator.
What he's saying, and this was the initial rumor, that it wasn't a government event, that it was the governor's governor's child's birthday that they did not attend that led to their suspension.
Maybe that's why the person that released that circular was shy in saying the important government event.
So we would like to ask the government of Ebonyi State.
Which one is the governor's daughter? The one on the left
little
or the
girl.
child?
The little
That's
girl. It's a little girl's birthday celebration. She's such a beautiful girl. So we want to know what really the celebration was, or the government event was that they did not attend.
We really need to know.
And if we find out that truly it was this birthday, this little child's birthday, which I think is important to be celebrated, and people should attend, but it is not a government function. It is not something that is under their scope of work.
Ask Joe Hansen. Joe Hansen is old enough to know the military when we're under military rule. This sort of things never happen.
It would never happen. What kind of behavior? I want to believe.
And you are young enough during this democratic dispensation to know that even in democracy, this thing has never happened before.
I don't know why you guys are. I don't know why you're stressing yourself. Governor Nwifuru has the right to do what he chooses because it is the people that
there's
voted.
a constitution that governs this affairs.
The leaders are a reflection of the people. And we need to start agreeing that going forward. A leader who has the temerity and the power and the might and the strength to do this kind of thing shows you that that's how he views the people. If Governor Wilfred says there was an important event, and again, I don't know why they are being shady
about the important
what the
event.
event
Yes.
was.
Why
Because
you
on a
withholding
good day,
information?
exactly, on a good day, if it's an event that is a very, it's a honorable event, it's an event that is official, then that's quite different. Then you put it there in the press release. But there's this shade,
secrecy
around
which
what the event was about, what it is. Hence why people are saying it was a birthday. And I don't know about that post, but if that post is true from one of the commissioners, the chief, he said because they invited them for a birthday party and they didn't want to go. And if they find out that it is true, let's just say it is true, then the people of Ebonyi State should decide what they will do in the next 2 years coming. Because you cannot have someone who would say, you know, we're starting to see, I mean, they say power, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we're also starting to see where people just feel like we are in a monarchy system where, hey, listen, if you don't attend, maybe the only thing that was left to have heard, or we would have heard, was there was a parana, there was a psalm. The king has announced that his family members are having this. Everybody was
very likely that they were suspended because of this birthday event. Because if it wasn't the birthday event, they would have stated in the circular.
It's looking that way.
Using the word instead of the ambiguity of an important government event.
So let's wait for them to come and tell us.
You just don't go ahead and suspend people without pay. You give a warning that, okay, next time, because I believe this is the first time this is happening. Outright suspension, 1 month salary. Our dear MD at New Central, Mr. Kayode,
he turned 60.
He turned 60.
Yes.
And we
were not even there.
We're not mandated.
In his words, he doesn't like celebrating it because he doesn't
there was
see
biscuit and many goodies, but we were not suspended. Imagine going a month in this economy without
his salary.
money.
Right. I think that's something that needs to be looked into. And, you know, I mean, just in reference to what you said, when MD, Mr. Kayode Akintemi, did his birthday, he didn't mandate us to attend there. We all celebrated him. But that's how it is. It's of your own volition. It's
you are going too far.
And there are many things.
The president also celebrated, the #1 citizen, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Jagaban, celebrated his own birthday as well. Of course, you had greetings and everything. Yeah. Even when he decided to say, okay, fine, thank you, was there any call, a clarion call that, listen, all governors must arrive at Aso Rock?
Governor Sanwo-Olu turned 60 recently, celebrated his birthday.
There
was no mandatory...
We really need to see the end of it. But I'm sure they'll get into damage control.
The truth is that you can decide to then be bitter and beef certain governors, but that should be something that will be on the low. Between your own pettiness. You should not be bold enough to showcase your pettiness.
Issues like this.
Also,
I beg you, let's move to the next story.
This is the height of...
Just to wrap up on that, I mean, we'll take reaction. Yes, it is an abuse of office, if truly this is what happened. Just to take the final thought on that would be that if the people have given their candidacy to this, they've rallied their support, they put this person in, acting in this capacity would amount to an abuse of the powers that the people have vested in you. There are people who don't believe in celebration of birthdays. You cannot mandate them to celebrate birthdays if it is against their belief, and even if it is within their belief, and they're not in the mood. That is not why we appoint government officials.
Is it constitutional?
It is not something that, as a nation, is enshrined in our constitution that you must celebrate birthdays, you must appear for every birthday function. It is a voluntary decision. But Nigerians have been reacting. Let's take a few of the reactions to this. Olatunji Olalekon says, he should have sacked all of them. There's a crisis within the system and their absence was calculated attempt to embarrass the governor that he is on his own. That's from Olatunji Olalekon. Francis Winfrey suspended his commissioners for not coming for his children's birthday. The evil APC will not bring, does not exist. A pure failure. Francis will be the last APC governor in Ebonyi State. Ndibo will never condone rascality in our land. Say no to terrorist and dictatorship leaders in our land.
That's too harsh. Voice of evil.
It's taking it too far.
That's too harsh. Don't go too far.
Misinformation is not good, though. Fact, Ebonyi Governor Francis Nwifuru suspended 25 commissioners and appointees for missing a key state event, such as the flag of agricultural input distribution at the Christian Ecumenical Center in Abakaliki, not a personal event like a child's birthday.
Okay, let's freeze it there.
Freeze. Yeah.
Pause.
So 25 commissioners and appointees
before we do that, let's even take this response. This person that says, how do you flag off agricultural input distribution at the Christian Ecumenical Center? Are you people praying over the agri-inputs? Even at that, why will 25 commissioners be present for such event? If not that you lots are jobless and wasteful.
But you know, that part, Christian Economical Center and agriculture, remember that in the Bible, Jesus fed people, multitude with loaf and fish, bread and fish. So it's agricultural spiritualism.
Wow. Benga, what is your issue? What's the color of
No,
your
I'm just trying to make sense of it.
Are you okay?
Feel my temperature, please.
But then again, let's scroll up a bit. I think let's scroll up
to the initial
Let's scroll up. Let's scroll
Yes,
up. Don Azar says misinformation is not good, and that's why we've categorically stated it here as we started the show that
Allegedly.
we do not have the facts. No, we do not have the facts, but it is rumored that it's a child's
and
birthday.
if it is
And
true
if
that
it
that
is,
happened, then that's an abuse of power.
then that's,
but back to this extra information.
missing key events. But take note, he said ES. There's an S to the events. So that means there are many, there are multiple. Now, in the case of multiplicity, there could also have been a situation whereby maybe the celebration was part of it, or there were myriads of it. There was a lineup of events. So when he says events, I'm going to take Don Azar's statement as maybe partially true. If he says an event, so there's
You
flag
can't
off.
have flag off of agricultural inputs in the church.
You know what, guys? I think I know the governor would make a statement. I'm very certain about that, and I'm sure he will make a statement. So let's wait till he makes a statement. If there's any other tweet, let's see if we can take that tweet. If not, let's move to our next story, as we do not have enough time. Ebony, people need to take this APC rascality very seriously, because what this party brings is nothing but disastrous and distasteful things.
I mean, the governors have their own agency. They act in their own ways. So I really don't understand why they're always tagged with their party. But I guess they represent their party, so that's why.
Anyway,
for this
the political
agricultural,
let's move on. Guys,
event
let's just move on.
online. I'm
Let's
looking
move
through the
on.
news articles. Normally, when you flag off something of that magnitude, it should appear in the news, shouldn't it?
Yeah, like I said, my investigative journalism antenna told me that that story was false. The flagging off of agricultural inputs in a church.
In fact, the last time I'm seeing that was 12th of December 2024, when he says Ebonyi State Governor Francis Winfrey on Thursday stated that his government will continue to make agriculture, blah, blah, blah. And then goes on to talk about, I mean, the headline reads, Winfrey flags off farm inputs distribution in Ebonyi.
Guys.
That was in the Nigerian Tribune.
So, I mean,
Anyway.
Our next
Let's
story
move on.
has got to do with the fact that Nigerians are clamoring for the hope that was promised to them. But instead of seeing it, Nigerians are taking different sides when it comes to explaining what the hope truly means. For some, it's difficulty in living, surviving, feeding, taking care of themselves, talk less of also
Cost of
taking care of
living.
others. The cost of living has indeed become a problem to every single individual. However, while Nigerians were complaining, a few popular persons,
a certain class.
you know, whom you choose to call celebrities, decided to jump on a train,
But they are
not a
celebrities.
literal train.
Whether or not they call them.
I mean, it
they are
depends on
celebrities.
Some
who's
will
perceiving
call them
them.
celebrities, some won't.
No. Yeah, I think it's an established fact that they are
Some will
celebrities.
call them, like I said,
It's
some.
just celebrities that some people
It's
like
opinion.
and celebrities that some people don't like.
It's opinion.
I don't think you can.
Some will
public-
call you
Public
celebrity.
persons.
No,
some will
that's
call you a
not-
celebrity.
I beg,
Or
leave my own.
public
There's some
figures.
people.
Please, let's move.
So what's the difference between a public? They are public figures.
Let's
Okay,
move
let's
on,
go to
guys.
the
Let's go to
public
this
figures.
news
They are
story.
celebrating them.
Okay, public figure.
Good,
let's
because
go to
not
the
everyone
public
calls everyone a celebrity, but I mean, then again. So they decided to jump on a train, not a physical train, but a type of train that, you know, sees them carry out a campaign.
Political train.
So it's a political truck.
Okay.
They were on top of it and they were campaigning all over, shouting that the hope is working.
What year are we in? Just to
This is 2025.
2025, not 2027.
However, one lady decided to do a video and put it on social media. But let's watch the video first so you get to see what is really happening.
Do wetin we dey call federal technical colleges. Say your children fit go technical jobs free of charge from age 13 to 20. Good children, good. Could I clap for Jagaban? They could I clap for Jagaban? Baba no stop for there. You see our road dem make dem begin fix am. He said that they fix the road. That they fix the road dem. If you enter Abuja now, you go like what we came they do for Abuja. Una don't like us, we don't do e-gates for our airports them. Plenty other things go come. And our Baba they do am.
Okay, this is a road show. They've gone out to highlight the
only
positive
difference
things.
is nobody was.
Yeah.
No, we did not see the people
we
dance.
didn't see the
I'm
entire
sure they
thing.
dance. How can you do road
So
show
they
if
have
dance?
gone out to highlight the important things. They are doing the work of the Ministry of Information or the Publicity Secretary of the APC to highlight the good things of the President Tinubu
That's
administration. And for those who know how these things work, there are many, many questions to be asked. Look at the calendar. Look at the time of the year. Look at this, the mood of the nation, the feelings of ordinary Nigerians, and maybe that's why they said, "Look, the people are angry. Let's go out there and make them relax. Let's highlight some of the great things this administration is doing."
So I went on Sheyi Law's page, and when he put up the post, the first comment I saw was, "The country they walk, Naimuna climbed 1970 lorry. You do even look at the environment we were campaigning and singing. Does it look like a place that the government is working? I never see where a person drink medicine, comes to the explain, say, in they feel better, whereby the signs and symptoms are there."
And then look at the feedback. There's no excitement from. It's almost like
Did you see where they said clap, clap? People were just walking.
The people are too hungry to even react.
So we're going to take reactions to this. Nigerians have reacted. But first of all, I'd like to say that Sheyi Law has garnered a lot of criticism, not just him and Yola Badmus because of their support for the current administration. Tony Abraham also, even though I think that now Nigerians have moved on and forgiven her. The Nigerians who were angry at her seem to have moved on. But Sheyi Law has gotten so much, attack. And I think that he's well within his right to support anybody that he chooses. We need to understand that the same way that people throw their support behind Peter Obi, people throw their support behind Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, Sheyi Law has every right to throw his support behind whoever he's throwing his support. That being said, the taste of the pudding is in the eating. You would not need to do a lot of convincing. And I think another angle that was a bit of a concern was campaigns have not officially started. Campaigns start in 2027.
Is this a campaign
like,
or
I don't even know why this is happening. In 2025 it looks like campaign takes different forms. Trying to sell your market to people to say, oh, this is what this person has done.
I mean, and that's the idea of a roadshow anyway. So even if you call it a roadshow, it's
campaigns.
a campaign.
Exactly. But the flip side to that, they might argue that that's also their avenue of telling people what they've done. That it's their way of carrying the masses along to say,
they're not
this
doing
is what
it
we've done.
under the ages of a political party. They're a group of individuals that are mobilized and said, look, we're doing this. So there wasn't any express directive from the APC that said you guys should go and campaign.
Right.
So
at the end of the day, truly, I think that, like I did say earlier, that the taste of the pudding is in the eating. We don't need to convince people too much that things are working if they genuinely can't see that things are working.
You look at a governor, the star governor in the East, Governor Alex Otti.
Yes.
I don't think people mobilize him.
He doesn't
up
need,
and down.
yes, he don't need
to
people
say
to do
that he's working is what speaks for him. You look at Babagana Zulum. Borno
Borno
State. He doesn't need to get people to jump on the truck to say, look, I'm working. The people can feel it.
I mean, even in the midst, just to add to what you've said, even in the midst of the controversy and what everyone is saying, if you pick the FCT minister, people will say, oh yes, because Abuja is going through a lot of transformation.
In Kuduru.
Oh yeah, and the other parts,
and
all that, which is
that are not
I mean, Olive wasn't around, but yeah, she doesn't understand what we're saying.
I'm so sorry.
For her, we're speaking in parables, but
let's take
that's the story, though. We just thought to bring that out. Any reactions to that? On how Nigerians are saying? Let's see what Nigerians are saying, especially on this. Are we going forward or backward for this Nigeria? Even Zach Oji, they defend Tinubu, gods of our land, save us. He has his rights now to do so.
It's so unfortunate that you people want to force on people who to vote for. All Nigerians have the right to vote for what they believe. Let's give this stuff some slack. What if the person you want people to vote for wins and he didn't do what he said during campaign? That's from Emi Zino. Chooks Eric E. Okay, sorry. King Benny Cute. Oh, I miss Benny. Says, you're still in power, yet campaigning like you're the opposition. What exactly are you campaigning for? After years of mismanagement, corruption, and failure to deliver on your promises, I can't read this other part. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
He says it's unfortunate what tribalism still influences how people vote. We must all recognize that the challenges facing this country affect every one of us. Okay. Crypto Chief says, this is beyond disgraceful. Imagine your so-called celebrities campaigning for a party that has plunged the country into suffering. This is mockery and betrayal. Any public figure involved in this nonsense should be ashamed. You're part of the rot holding this country down. Well, these are the tweets of Nigerians.
This one is
This one
angry.
is-
Tell me what's going on.
But you know the funny thing? I wanted to say, why are you swearing for them? But then again, it's not swear if they believe that Nigeria as is working. It says, and I decree that their individual families and generations shall be exactly as the Nigeria that their master is fixing in Jesus' name. I wanted to say, why are you swearing for them? But then
So
again,
since they believe they are working,
yes, if you come out and
they have
say
that
that the
conviction,
country is working 100%,
then apply it to your
then
family.
this prayer should not be a curse. It should be a blessing, don't you think?
That's right.
It's
Yes.
a prayer looking curse-like, but it's a
But
valid
what
prayer.
it simply means is, if the
It
country
means
is
do
working
unto
and you
others
believe
what
that
you
it's
want others to
exactly,
do
if you
unto
believe it's
you.
working and it's looking good, then your family
Immanuel
should
Kant, the
mirror exactly
philosopher,
what it is.
Kant's categorical imperative.
Wow.
Yes.
Anyway, guys, we'll leave it at that. But then again, I mean, Oliver's highlighted the point. I mean, let everybody choose what they want to do. You can't chastise them for what they choose to do.
Everybody must not vote for the same
However,
person.
exactly. However, on the other hand, there are also concerns about the sudden campaign, which already
look,
had started a few months ago.
we're both
Either
young
subtle
enough
or, you know.
to have gone through this 26 years of uninterrupted democracy. And we've been on TV for more than a decade, at least. Three of us have at least 10 years experience each. We've never witnessed this
Level of
rush.
desperation.
This rush. I mean, it's July of 2025. Elections are 2 years away. Why the hurry?
It feels like
and if
this
we
whole
continue
coalition.
like this, the implication will be like, okay, you're going to work for 1 year and then the remaining 3 years.
And that's what's going to happen because, like we always
It's for
say,
politicking.
when you set the ground as an example for the next person to come, I mean,
pick
I
up
can't
and they follow
imagine
through.
if another president comes years later and then he works first year, second year he starts campaigning.
But then, if you're campaigning, you need to show workings. You need to show what. So there's a flip side to it. You need to show what you need things to campaign on.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens in 2026, and
Yeah.
we'll see what projects and the work they want to show to
Anyway,
people.
to wrap
It
things
might-
up, just to
might be a good
mention,
thing.
yeah, I mean, just to mention quickly that the NNPCL has come out to say that the Port Harcourt refinery is
It's
not for sale. That's what
they
they
put
say.
this big banner.
However-
Not for sale.
However,
I was having a conversation with my investment friends.
Yeah.
Oliver and I, might be interested in that purchase, but I guess we'll look for another refinery, maybe in
I
Cotonou to
know.
buy,
We're looking at investing in the
or in
NNPC,
Guinea-Bissau.
okay.
NNPC refinery. We're trying
But-
to
but-
buy it, but
When I saw this story yesterday, just to highlight because we're out of time, something came to my mind, Benga, and it's the same line of problem that the country faces every now and then. You have a new NNPCL boss who has come out to say, listen, the refineries are not for sale. However, he has also told the Senate to give him time so that he can gather all evidences and information to prove that the 210 trillion naira that is missing was not actually stolen and is not missing. He had to get his facts
Do
right.
a complete
I've-
audit. Yeah.
Exactly. I've highlighted two things now. But as we as Nigerians, I want us to really think and listen attentively, please. What happened to those who were maintaining the Port Harcourt refineries and over 100 and something billion has already been spent on the turnaround maintenance of that refinery?
Only for the
And yet-
refinery not to work.
And yet it's still not working. So are we just going to keep quiet?
No,
So the money is gone.
I mean, it's on the file. Like that, like I said, the chief finance officer of the Port Harcourt refinery was with the EFCC recently, facing questions.
To
So
what
he would
end?
account.
Bingo.
to what end?
It's
You
still
genuinely
one guy,
believe
and
that?
that is just
Do you know how much
one-
they've spent in all the
I think they've
refineries?
I guess
invited,
investigation is
invited
still
about, I think, 2 or 3 of them.
ongoing.
What about the others? I'm talking about people from President Muhammadu Buhari's timeline down till today, before they were
This is the taxpayers'
replaced.
money. We need
$897.6
accountability.
million
it's a lot
spent
of
on
money.
maintaining Warri refinery.
You're right.
All
And
the,
it didn't
by the time you
just
look at
start
all the
with this
refineries,
administration.
of
We
course
need to
not.
go all the way
Go
back.
all the way back.
And I believe that's the audit is working on.
Go all the way back. Now, guess what? Let's say it here before others would say it. We are certain, although we are not keeping our fingers crossed, if care is not taken, nothing will happen.
Of course.
I
that's
really
what it
hope
feels
that's
like.
not the case.
It feels like business as usual.
Okay.
But hope is not a strategy.
And the question about still not selling the refinery, is that the best decision to make?
Exactly.
Especially it feels like a basket. When you keep pouring water into a basket, the basket cannot hold the water. If you keep pouring in billions and billions of dollars into maintaining refineries and they're not still able to produce at optimum capacity, they're not even able to produce, at the end of the day, the question is it a financially wise decision to continue to invest in that? Nigerians have been reacting to NNPC's statement. If you go on their page, someone says, lease it to me and I'll carry out the turnaround maintenance and put it on stream. Federal government will give 10 to 20 years period of tax break or incentives. We can make Nigeria refineries great again. You can see a number of the reactions on X. There are those who believe, but let's take some of the reactions with you here. There are those who believe in this. There are many who say it's just a waste of time. Someone says, we'll be here waiting. You have come to tell us the same thing from Ukachuku said, I don't even understand. And
Ikachuku, that was the former
DG of
DJ said, and Kiari reiterated. But at the end of their terms, what did we get? Oh, yes, I get what he was trying to say now. Over $5 billion have been spent on those refineries. Money that can build more schools and even pay our striking nurses. Okay, Usha George says. And the next tweet in reaction to this, what amount will it cost to do the high advanced upgrade and rehabilitation? Request for more money, let Tinubu borrow more for it. Same strategy for looting. Ooh, that's from Kenny Davis. Rufai Aziz Abiodun says, the new leadership won't chop their own part of national cake too. Interesting. You see, all these tweets.
Everybody, there's no trust.
I just want to say, like say that refinery is bigger than Nigeria. Of course, I can't fathom why such a single infrastructure is bigger for the whole of Nigeria to manage in decades. Every government always encounters one problem or the other whenever they want to bring it back to life.
Maybe that refinery needs spiritual cleansing.
So if you speak to, I've been opportunity to speak to a few persons, just to wrap things up, I've been opportunity to speak to a few persons, and then they've said quickly, they've told me that the entire refinery needs a complete change in terms of some of the equipment, things used are still old. However, you wonder, like I said, $1.5 billion has been spent on that Port Harcourt refinery. Wasn't it enough for them to have changed those things and replaced them? And then you call it turnaround maintenance. Then you now put up a farce. 6 months, you claim that it was working. You invited journalists. Where did you get that petrol from? That one that you were pumped. You know, there's a lot that is shaded.
And is my auxiliary also going to tow the same part of Milikari?
Do you understand?
At the time when they'd been saying
people should be punished for that.
People should be punished. By now, I was expecting that by now the president would have come out and say, hey, listen, going forward, even if he would do a State of the Nation address or something, sometimes you need to take actions and say, listen, we're not going to take this. All of them. Oh yeah, let them face the law.
When it comes to our petroleum sector, that's something that we've struggled so much. Like we can't even say at the end of the day how much comes into the federal reserve. Exactly. This is a price. It's why from Obasanjo's time it was something that they reserved the Minister of Petroleum for the president because it was almost like a fail-safe procedure, which now we're starting to second guess and see if that measure really works. Because the president has so much more to do. Leaving himself as Minister of Petroleum, is that really the best step? So then it puts a lot of burden. Now with NNPC, for example, it puts a lot of burden on the GMD of NNPC. And for the longest time, they've said about, the same way they said the National Assembly, open NAS, the same way they say open NNPC, because a lot of activities have happened there that have gone under the radar. That need thorough scrutiny. Right. But
one more question before we go. One more question. Why is Dangote Refinery working?
What is he doing that they can't do? Does he have 2 heads?
Good question. Olive,
that's an individual.
On this
is government
issue, Joe is very passionate about it and agitated. I don't think he used moisturizer this morning. I think he used petroleum jelly. On that note, can we move up, please?
Please, top stories before Benga turns to something
Dry
else.
jokes.
Let's go, top stories right away.
Top stories this morning on Breakfast Central. Nigeria's debt profile. Criticisms trail recent federal government borrowing. I will be analyzing this debt crisis. We'll also be analyzing Nigeria's declining consumer power and looking at income versus expenditure. We'll be assessing President Tinubu's diplomatic silence 2 years in. We've been without ambassadors. We'll also be bringing you updates on the Delta blood scandal as a 41-year-old has been caught running illegal blood bank from home. The newspaper front pages form a key part of our final hour this morning on Breakfast Central. Stay with us for all these and more.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central. Today we're diving deep into a crisis that's quietly choking the lifeblood of Nigeria's economy: household consumption. From market stalls in Mushi to mega stalls in Maitama, the story is the same. Families are spending less, businesses are feeling the pinch, and the economy is grasping for breath. According to a report by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics titled Nigerian Gross Domestic Product Report, Expenditure and Income Approach Q1 Q2 2024, published in July 2025, the data reveals a troubling trend. Real household consumption expenditure has been declining since Q3 of 2023.
Specifically, household consumption expenditure fell by minus 42.28% in Q1 2024 and minus 61.18% in Q2 2024, reflecting lower rates compared to the same quarters in 2023. On a quarter-on-quarter basis, real household consumption expenditure decreased by 45.71% in Q1 2024 and plummeted by 99.24% in Q2 2024. These figures are difficult to digest. Many have attributed this sharp decline in consumption as reasons many foreign multinationals are exiting Nigeria. Nigerians today struggle to afford anything priced in dollars, including imported premium motor spirits. But don't take our words for it. We do have a guest who's joining us, a financial analyst, and of course, you could say an expert when it comes to the numbers and reviews of what the economy is really looking like. You do recall that many have said that what is being said by the administration is quite different from reality. Well, financial analyst Kalu Aja joins us this morning. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sure you've been following the details, especially looking at the numbers we just reeled out there, especially from that report. What's your take on the purchasing power, really and truly? Do you think it's correct?
Yeah, of course. I mean, because you see it. The numbers can lie sometimes, but with Nigerians see the sachets all around Nigeria. When we're buying rice from 50 kg to now 10 kg, 5 kg, everything is sachetized in Nigeria because consumption has fallen, which means the ability of the wages to support spending has fallen out the window. So the firms have had to reduce the quantity and increase the price of the reduced quantity just to push out inventory out the window. So the numbers look correct. What we see on the street, the visuals also look correct. And of course, the household's budget does also affirm that consumption in Nigeria is really, really negative and falling. It's not just a number, but it's a trend. The trend shows it's falling and falling very, very fast here.
Mr. Kalaja, you mentioned a sachet economy. Growing up, it's either you're buying a tin of milk, it's either you're buying a liter of cooking oil. Everything seems to, even the FCMGs are satirizing everything. And the numbers that the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics reeled out are quite staggering. Household consumption fell by over 60% year-on-year in Q2 2024. From your perspective, what are the key structural or policy-driven factors driving this collapse in consumer spending?
Yeah, the very, very heart of it is the fall in real wages. Real wages mean wages that can beat inflation. Nigeria just increased minimum wage to 70,000 naira. Before it was 30 for a long while. But inflation over a decade or even over 2 decades has galloped. So the wages Nigerians get cannot keep pace with inflation. Now, if you look at the household budgets for Nigerians, 50% is spent on food. We just rebase that now to about 40%. What we're seeing is that when food prices go up, wages go all to food. Hence, there is nothing to consume outside food. You pay for food, rent, perhaps education. There is nothing left over to consume. And we are going into credit to basically buy food to survive. So those are the structural problems. The high inflation has removed the purchasing power of the naira. Naira is no longer a store of value. It's now a means of exchange. And the rate of increase in salaries has not kept pace with the rise in prices. So that's really the heart of it. It's a food story. It's not really it's a food story. Food in Nigeria has gone up. We just haven't kept up pace. And how you know a poor country is the amount of the budget the household spend on food alone. So that's the central issue: food inflation, destroying wages, and occupation inflation.
And are the projections that things will get better or worse? And I ask this because we see that this year, for example, there have been situations where a number of people have had to move to IDP camps, farms have been attacked, people who have had to deal with the flood. Do we foresee that this might also impact consumer power, and how bad do you think it will?
Well, there are two ways to look at this. I think I saw a report that said malnutrition in Nigeria had gone up, right? I think from the UN or something like that, it had gone up. But the government has also allowed food imports to come in duty-free. They had that policy that was passed. It's now being implemented. That's why you see inflation coming down a bit officially in Nigeria. So without that policy being passed, it would have been far, far worse. In terms of like going forward, unless food really is available in bulk or across the market, you will not see this fall in inflation. We see the CBN doesn't seem to agree with the inflation numbers that the NBS is releasing because it's just kept interest rates flat, the monetary policy rate flat. It hasn't taken it down to correspond to the fall in inflation. So going back to the point, food is still expensive, but it would have been worse if they had not passed this policy of allowing food imports to come in. That's where we are right now. We have to watch and see how we pass. It's an insecurity issue. It's not an agricultural yield issue. Farmers aren't going to farm. And once farmers aren't farming, yields are going to fall, prices go up, and inflation then sort of stays elevated.
You've just talked about allowing importation because tax-free importation. Would you say that we're experiencing this because there's weak demand or a decline in demand, or there's an inability to match up with supply? Or is it a mixture of both?
Great question. It's the supply side. Nigeria's inflation is supply driven. So when you see prices go up during Christmas, during Salah, it's because there are not enough product in the market. If you're in the West, during Halloween or during Christmas, prices come down or even stay flat. You see sales everywhere because there's oversupply. So firms cannot increase price in that sort of market. In Nigeria's instance, there is little supply. There are so many little goats or rams or chickens or ground oil in the market during Christmas or Salah. So the price goes up. We've got to increase yields if we want to bring down inflation. It's not a monetary issue. We've got to go in and increase agricultural yields, and we can't do that if there's insecurity in the farmlands. So you see how it's all tied in back. There's tons of demand, but nothing to buy. And even the demand that we're trying to do in the market is being funded by a falling naira. Why this is very, very key is that your consumption is my income, and my income is then my consumption. So it's a circular economy. If we don't consume, the economy cannot grow, GDP cannot grow, jobs cannot be created, SMEs in Nigeria will die. So consumption is a key hidden thing that we're not really talking about that much.
All right, there are mentions of structural reforms, especially by this administration. Structural reforms were looked at to enhance long-term economic efficiency. There was also fiscal and monetary policies. Do you think these monetary policies are equally affecting what we have today? Even though the CBN at some point has come out to say that the economy is stabilizing and so on and so forth, are these policies really working?
Well, the CBN's core mandate is inflation. In Nigeria, we don't have a full employment mandate, which means they're not really concerned with jobs. Their key mandate is inflation. They've done that. So in the textbooks, when inflation is rising, you have to raise interest rates to fight inflation. CBN has done that very, very well. The problem is when you raise interest rates, you kill local, small, and medium enterprises. So there's always a balance. If you look at the US, there's always a stimulus. When they raise interest rates, they give you an outer stimulus. Nigeria has got to look at the growth side now. I think we focus too much on the monetary side. Are you fighting only inflation? What about the SMEs? Can we then have, even if it could be a special fund or something targeted to create jobs? Because if you fight inflation to zero and there are no jobs, what really have you done? So I understand what the CBN is doing, but monetary policies alone cannot increase the supply of food. So the CBN is fighting with one hand a battle it cannot win by simply increasing or reducing MPR. There has to be, with the executive guys, we've got to do insecurity, bring that down, then the monetary policies can then work. Remember, like I said, it's a food issue. So we can't raise interest rates and then rice is produced in Kebbi. We've got to allow rice in Kebbi to flow from Kebbi to Lagos, and that reduces inflation on its own, even without printing or monetary pressures on the naira.
Let's look at the bigger picture beyond monetary policy rates. Now, there's also talks of multinationals exiting the country and local businesses cutting costs. Are we now in a feedback loop where low consumption leads to job cuts, which then further depresses spending? How do we break out of this cycle?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, if you can't consume, if you can't afford a bottle of Coke, then what's Coca-Cola doing here? So like you said in your intro, once its dollar is attached to it, Nigerians can afford it. Anything at all dollar is attached to it, because a dollar is nearly 1,500. So it's very, very expensive for Nigerians to afford. A bag of rice is nearly 80% of minimum wage. 70,000, bag of rice about 50,000. So if you don't consume, no one's going to come here and sell. No one has bought a fridge or a car or an air conditioner. Maybe if you know any middle class person in Nigeria that buys a fridge every 2 years or an air conditioner every 3 years, it doesn't happen. We buy food, we just pay and move on. So if we don't spend, the SMEs, the multinationals cannot create revenues and sales to maintain an office in Nigeria. They rather sell to us but not maintain the office that pays the salary, the research folks, and then that then affects our economy because we don't have that GDP or the foreign direct investments that those companies bring. So yes, it's a negative feedback loop, and you've got to pay back the IMF loan. We had to pay back at that time. It was a special loan. Nigeria has no IMF loan. That was a special COVID loan that was given to basically all the countries. So we had to pay back at that time, and we did pay back at that time. So that was, let's leave it out of the way. The new borrowings, where I looked at the list of what they want to do with it, I see a lot of capital projects. And to go back to your question, yes, Nigeria needs to borrow. We need to borrow even more than we're borrowing. The problem is where we are doing with the borrowings. In the past, when you look at the borrowings, we are borrowing about 40% of what we call budget support, which means we are borrowing to pay salaries or borrowing to just go on a conference. We've got to borrow for infrastructure to increase productivity that reduces cost. What I mean is this: if we borrow to build the railways to connect Lagos to Kebbi to Maiduguri, that the rice then comes from Kebbi to Lagos and is cheaper, that drops inflation, that helps productivity, that creates jobs. That's good borrowing. If we are borrowing to build affordable homes across all the states of Nigeria, where graduates can buy a home, can start a mortgage business, and have equity, that's good borrowing. So there's nothing wrong with that borrowing. Borrowing is front-loaded consumption. But Nigerians are a bit afraid that they're going to borrow and not do projects that will affect them primarily and, at the base level. We've done a lot of spending on the coastal road. It's a great project, but is it the best project to do with the money that we have right now? We removed fuel subsidy, right? We've spent on the coastal road. But all the roads inside Nigeria are bad. So the argument is, should you start a new road or should you go ahead and fix the roads that exist already? Because if you fix, I keep on referring to Kebbi and Lagos, if you fix that road or that bridge that goes all the way from Kano to Lagos, you are fixing food supply, you're fighting inflation. So you want to ask yourself, should we fix the existing roads to increase productivity today, or should we go ahead and build a coastal road, which in my estimation will not get built in the next 10 years? It's a great project, but that's going to be a brand new project. Nigeria has not completed the Lagos to Ibadan Express Road. That's the most important road in Nigeria since 1999. That road has not been completed. And this is where you get the fears of where your question is coming from. Can we trust the government to borrow in dollars, spend in naira, and then repay in dollars? Because we've got to then make money in naira, convert it, and pay back those debts. So that's an open question. I hope they do, but we are afraid just like you.
Said, and a lot to be done. Well, I want to say thank you so much, Mr. Kaloja, for joining us and helping us to break this down, especially for our viewers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
All right. You're still watching Breakfast Central. Don't forget that you can drop your comments on our socials and let us know what you think about some of the very important and interesting conversations we've had so far for the first hour. But let's tell you that we'll be bringing to you what's coming up next here in the second hour. Coming up next, Nigeria's declining consumer power will also take a look at how you are spending, assessing President Tinubu's diplomatic silence 2 years in power and then ahead of Rivers local government elections.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Former presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, recently warned that the nation's debt could surpass 200 trillion naira by the year end. But responding to his warning, presidential aide Mr. Sunday Dare defended President Tinubu's borrowing plan as strategic and safe for the country. Tinubu's administration secured Senate approval for a $21 billion external borrowing plan, plus 758 billion naira in domestic bonds spread across 2025 through to 2026.
Nigeria's debt to GDP ratio post-rebasing stands at 39%, below the 40% threshold. Mr. Peter Obi warned that total debt could hit 200 trillion naira, citing fiscal indiscipline, poor infrastructure, and worsening poverty. Sunday Dare insists that the loans are tied to infrastructure and social sector investment, not recurrent spending. So the question is, what exactly is at stake? Join us this morning for this discussion is the CEO, Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, Dr. Muda Yusuf. Good morning, Dr. Yusuf, and thanks for joining us on Breakfast Central this morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
We're happy to have you. Dr. Yusuf, critics like Peter Obi say that Nigeria's borrowing lacks discipline and is worsening our fiscal vulnerability. In your view, is there a line between strategic borrowing and reckless debt accumulation? And has this administration crossed it? Where are we at this point of our nation move?
Well, thank you very much for having me. Your previous guest, I think, did an excellent job of explaining, part of the question that you are raising concerning debt. What is most important as far as debt is concerned is what you call the sustainability of the debt. And you have a number of metrics or consideration of factors that you use to assess the sustainability of the debt of a country. The first is the cost of the debt. We need to know exactly what is the cost. And when I say cost, I mean the interest payment. Because there are concessionary debts and there are debts that are commercial. Concessionary debts are much easier in terms of sustainability than commercial debts because they are cheaper and they are more long-term. The second major consideration is the tenor of the debt. If you have a debt that is long-term, 20 years, 30 years, that gives you a lot more room to maneuver in such a way that if along the line your liquidity improves, you can even refinance the debt and get out completely from the debt, rather than having short-term debts that will choke your cash flow. So the tenor of the debt is also something that is very important. The third is the purpose for which you are taking the debt. Your previous guest, alluded excellently to that. We need to have full information as to what exactly are we borrowing for. Are we borrowing to support expenditures or projects that will support productivity in the economy? Or are we borrowing to support things that sometimes we even find difficulty in measuring or in monitoring? So the purpose of the debt is also very critical. Then there's also the capacity to service the debt. The country should not borrow beyond its capacity. Otherwise, if a country begins to default in debt, then it creates a whole lot of issues. It creates a whole lot of credibility issues, image issues, and so on and so forth. So these are the criteria which I think we need to subject the current debt situation to before we come to any conclusion as to whether these debts are worthwhile, whether they are sustainable or not. So the central issue here is about sustainability. And when I look at the general debt profile, I think, for instance, over 50% of the debts are multilateral debt. That's debts owed to, I'm talking of external debt now, owed to World Bank, African Development Bank, and all of that. Then there is also the component of the debt that is bilateral. You know, both the bilateral debts and the multilateral debts are generally very concessionary. In terms of the costs, most times some of these debts are just about 2%, 1%, and most times they're also long term. And if you look at some of those debts, they are also committed directly to projects. If you take the Chinese loan, for instance, if you look at our railway projects, most of them are coming directly from the Chinese facility. If you look at our airports, most of them are coming from the Chinese facilities, you know, and even the ports. So there are some loans that are committed directly to projects that can improve capacity. So these are the things that we need to worry about as far as issues of debt is concerned.
All right. There's so many other areas to look at. Of course, the post-GDP rebasing is another conversation that has come into the spotlight. Debt to GDP is about 39%, we're seeing here. But the question is whether this affects or reflects the current reality of Nigerians. The report, you made reference to the last conversation. We talked about the consumption power, consumption ability of Nigerians. So would you say that, you know, these borrowings have impacted or have the potential to impact Nigerians who have been referred to as 133 million of them being multidimensionally poor?
Well, issue of the welfare of the people, you know, has a lot more dimensions to it than issue of debt. You know, it's also generally about the macroeconomic policy. It's also about the priority of spending. And it's also about how collectively all the tiers of government, all the levels of government are playing their parts as far as the welfare of the people is concerned. I'm talking now about the federal government, the state governments, and the local governments. All of them together have to bring something to the table as far as the welfare of the people is concerned. At the macroeconomic level, because that is important, because when you look at the poverty situation, one of the major drivers of poverty is inflation, because inflation erodes the purchasing power of the people and make people a lot poorer. So how well we manage the macroeconomic environment to ensure that inflation does not get completely out of hand is a major thing that the government needs to do. And the way you also manage your debt could also impact on the inflation. The level of deficit you incur could also impact on inflation. The rate at which you print money, just as you had in the previous administration, will impact on inflation. So managing inflation, managing our foreign exchange environment, ensuring stability has a major role to play in addressing the issue of welfare, because these are the factors that create a whole lot of issues around poverty. Then there's also the issue of addressing specifically the basic needs of the people, and that, you know, relates more to the priority of spending. I'm talking now about, for instance, issues of food. How do we spend in a way to ensure that we're able to bring down the cost of food, especially domestically? And that speaks to issue of particularly addressing the issue of insecurity, for instance, issues of logistics of moving the food products from the farm to the market, you know. So these are issues of packaging, issues of storage, you know. These are critical structural issues that needs to be addressed to ensure that we have better environment and support for farmers, and issues of technology in our agriculture. Because if you look at practically all sectors of the economy, one sector that has been lagging behind in terms of leveraging technology is agriculture. Because most of our agricultural practices are still what it used to be some 20, 30 years ago. So transformation, mechanization, and all of that, which I think part of which the government has been doing, I mean, all these visits to Brazil and all of that, there's a whole lot of talk about tractors coming in and so on and so forth. And we are seeing quite a number of state governments also supporting their farmers to improve food production. But the biggest challenge as far as food production is concerned is this issue of insecurity. So again, the government has been doing its best to tackle the problem of insecurity. But you know, when you are dealing with an asymmetric warfare, because this is not a regular warfare, this is a guerrilla war. And it's a very, very challenging war to deal with. So that is also an issue. Then issues of electricity and things like that will enable small businesses to thrive a lot more. That is also critical. So the way we spend, the structure of spending, the way we address the macroeconomic issues, stability, inflation, exchange rate, all those things also have implications, you know, for the poverty of the people. And I must emphasize again that all the tiers of government, all levels of government have to bring something to the table. They need to be a lot more accountable to the citizens. Or for the citizens, the only way you can convince the citizens that this reform or economic policies are working is when they see an impact on their lives. So I agree with you. It's a very important point that needs to be addressed by all levels of government.
But there's also this fear that the more we borrow, the more it continues to devalue our currency. Hence why we have a struggle, because obviously we're borrowing in dollars, and when we have to repay back, we also have to ensure that we convert the naira to dollar and get to pay back. Is it not further devaluing the currency? And isn't this also going to be an indicator to foreign investors when we look at FDI? Are they not going to be afraid that if they come, there might be some form of excessive borrowing overhaul that would indeed affect businesses as well?
No, you see, in economic management, there is a whole lot of moving parts, you know, that work together. It's not just about borrowing. Just as I said, first, it's about using the debt to support the capacity of the economy to grow. Secondly, it's about economic diversification. Third, it's also about exports, capacity to export. Third is also about issue of import substitution. These are the things that help to stabilize our balance of payment position. Because what we are relating to has to do with our balance of payment position, our external position. So it depends on how we're able to address issues of export growth, how we're able to address issues of import substitution. Take, for example, until about 2 years ago, we were spending close to $10 billion or even more dollars annually to import petroleum products. Now the situation is changing because we are now able to meet substantially our domestic petroleum products needs. So you can imagine the import substitution effect arising from, you know, the production of petroleum products domestically, especially by the Dangote refinery. And beyond the petroleum products, there are also opportunities coming up now in terms of petrochemicals. Most of our industries rely on imported petrochemical products. Now, when you look at what is happening in some of in Dorama, in Dangote refinery, and maybe some other refineries that are coming up, the pressure of importation of petrochemical products to support especially our manufacturing sector, chemical industries, plastic industries, those pressure of importation will also reduce. So if we're able to also deal with this issue of insecurity, all this pressure of having to import food will also reduce. So if we're able to tackle that simultaneously, our external position will strengthen. Once the external position is strong, our capacity to repay the debt will not be a big issue. So that is why I'm saying that we need to do so many things together. And we need to also ensure that we activate all our critical policy levers on the monetary policy front, on the fiscal policy front, on investment policy front, to ensure that we achieve all these objectives. So a lot of things needs to work together to be able to deliver these outcomes.
Now, Dr. Yusuf, many argue, some experts have said Nigeria doesn't have a debt problem, but a revenue problem. Do you agree? And if so, what immediate steps should the government take to sustainably grow revenue without stifling the private sector? And I also want to know your take on this new tax reform bill that has just been signed into law. How much effect will they have in the general picture of revenue?
Well, when we look at the size of the economy in relation to the revenue that we have, it will become clear that we are not doing enough in terms of revenue generation. We could do a lot more without necessarily putting too much pressure on investors. And the point here is about efficiency and effectiveness in revenue administration, especially in tax administration. Because if you have an environment where things are so loose and people who are supposed to pay tax are not paying tax and all of that, that could be an issue. And that is part of the things I think that the current tax reform is addressing. If we're able to properly address efficiency in tax administration, I'm not talking about putting more burden on existing taxpayers or increasing the tax rate. I'm talking about efficiency in tax administration, because we saw the example of what happened in Lagos. In Lagos State, a few years ago, we knew what the revenue position was. But at some point, I think it was even under the current president as governor of Lagos State, there was introduction of technology and all of that, and all the loose ends, all the loopholes were plugged. And suddenly we saw a dramatic increase in revenue. So I think the same thing is about to play out at the federal level. So if we improve the efficiency and plug the loopholes and the corruption and the leakages, and some of the agencies that are also lavishly spending the revenue they are generating, that will improve the position of our revenues, and also be able to mitigate the fears around the capacity of the government to fiscally sustain the management of the economy and the pressure of debt service on revenue. Because when you look at some of those ratios currently, those ratios are not looking so good. But if the revenue situation improves as a result of this tax reform, we are likely to begin to see an improvement. But more importantly is to ensure that even on the part of government, we see more diligent utilization of resources. We see less corruption. We see proper prioritization of government spending. Because that is also very, very important to ensure economic sustainability, and even from a moral point of view. Because if the citizens are paying taxes, they must see that you are using the taxes very well, transparently, and judiciously, in a way that they feel it inspires the confidence of the citizens that, yes, our resources are being managed well. So the optics are also very important when we talk about, all these issues about fiscal operations of government.
Okay, I'd like to also ask what alternative fiscal measures are available, as opposed to borrowing. If we don't have to borrow, are there other alternative measures that can be employed to achieve the same end results that the government is trying to achieve?
Well, all over the world, government borrows. All over the world, even businesses borrow, because you need to expand the scope of your activity so that you can grow. But that is not to justify that borrowing should now become the major source of funding the activities of government or investing in infrastructure. So the options open is one which I've mentioned, which is optimizing and ensuring effective tax administration. That is one way. The other way is to ensure that the agency investment that government has in some assets. Right now, we have huge investments running to billions of dollars in the oil and gas, for instance. How well are we optimizing the use of those assets? Because there is tax revenue, there is non-tax revenue. So we can do a lot more in the area of non-tax revenue. So that will bring a lot of relief when it comes to, easing the pressure of taxes either on businesses or on the individuals. So maximizing the non-tax revenue from optimizing the assets in the oil and gas, optimizing the assets in our maritime sector, and some of the agencies of government that are also generating revenue. Because some of them are making a whole lot of money, most of which are not being remitted to government. So we need to look at all those areas of non-tax revenue and optimize the returns from them. So, and I think that is also part of the things that all these tax and fiscal reforms are all about. If you're able to do that, we're likely to see a dramatic increase in non-tax revenue. And that is in fact, if you look at countries in the Middle East, they make more money from their investment in oil and gas. Far more than what they make in taxes, because they properly utilize those oil and gas assets. And we are blessed in this country, particularly in the area of natural resources. So we need to optimize the use of those resources, to be able to boost revenue from the non-tax angle.
Dr. Muda Yusuf, you've said it all, that we are blessed in this area. And not too long ago, myself and my colleagues here were talking about the Port Harcourt refinery. I mean, over $1.5 billion spent, and yet it's still in a dead state. Nothing is happening. Only one man came and, of course, set up a refinery that's actually servicing the entire country and outside the country. But while we talk about the refineries, the monies have been spent there, it's not working. I want you to also, let's look at the impact of these refineries that are not working. What would they do if they get them working to the economy? Because it seems like everyone is looking at oil and gas, and there's only one person whose refinery is working. What about the others? What would they do? What would they add to the economy?
Well, there are some modular refineries that are working, although you can't compare their scale to that of the Dangote refinery. And in any case, many of them don't even produce, those modular refineries don't produce PMS. I understand they produce diesel and all of that. But what is clear from history and from our experience is that our public sector cannot manage the refinery. If you continue to insist that the NNPC and all these parastatals of government in oil and gas will manage the refinery, we'll just be throwing good money after bad. So my view is that we should adopt the model we have with the NLNG, that's the Nigerian liquefied natural gas. Government can sell down its shares, ownership, equity in these refineries and invite the private sector to have controlling shares in those refineries. We don't have the institutional capacity in our public sector, with all due respect, to manage those kind of enterprises. Because if you continue to do that, we continue to waste our very valuable resources. And we have done that for several decades. We cannot afford to continue that. So for me, getting the government to take the back seat, getting a private sector either to take it over completely or to have majority shares in those refineries is the way to go. Otherwise, if you leave the refineries in the hands of politicians and bureaucrats, we continue to lose very valuable resources and money, and that will not be in the interest of our economy and our citizens at all. So for me, that is the way to go.
Now, finally, Dr. Muda Yusuf, before we let you go, looking ahead, what fiscal reforms or debt management strategies would you recommend to ensure Nigeria doesn't fall into a full-blown debt crisis while still pursuing growth and developmental goals?
Well, first of all, is to ensure that we rely less on foreign borrowing, because foreign debts are much more difficult to service than domestic debt. So the balance of the debt should be focused more on domestic than foreign, so that it doesn't strangulate our external position. It doesn't create problem with us, for the economy in terms of forex and all of that. The second point is to bring a lot more discipline into what we use the borrowed funds for, so that we use borrowed funds strictly for infrastructure, not for all this poverty alleviation, gender this and all these nebulous things that you cannot actually put your fingers on. They have to be tied to projects. Thirdly is to be conscious of the cost of the debt. If the debt is too costly, we should stay away from costly debts, because those things come back to put a lot of pressure on government finances, and it shrinks, it contracts the fiscal space, which now creates problem of deficit, problem of borrowing, problem of inflation, which now comes back to be hurting, the ordinary citizens. So these are some of the things I think we need to be watching out for, so that we don't end up. And of course, I talked about optimizing revenue, tax revenue, and particularly non-tax revenue, so that we don't have recourse so much, to be relying on debt. I think for me, those are basically the things that we need to do to ensure that our debt is sustainable, because it's all about sustainability of debt.
All right, Dr. Muda Yusuf, thank you very much for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. We look forward to having you again.
Thank you
very
so
much.
for your time.
Thanks for
I
having me.
appreciate it.
All right. This is still Breakfast Central. If you're just tuning in, well, we have more to come this morning after this very quick break. Nearly 2 years after President Bola Tinubu ordered the recall of all Nigerian ambassadors from missions across the globe, the country's foreign service remains in a state of paralysis, with no new appointments made to fill the 109 vacant positions. And of course, this prolonged absence of appointed envoys has sparked growing concern among foreign policy experts and citizens alike, particularly as Nigeria faces an increasingly complex international landscape, from escalating tensions in the Middle East to shifts in global trade and diplomacy. Observers say the vacuum has left Africa's largest economy without a clear international voice.
President Tinubu, who assumed office in May 2023, recalled all diplomats in September of that year, but has yet to name replacements. While the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has attributed the delay to funding constraints, critics argue that excuse has worn thin. Now, following the removal of fuel and electricity subsidies and the floating of the naira, government revenues have risen significantly, casting doubts on claims of financial limitations. But in the interim, Tinubu has taken on the role of Nigeria's chief diplomat, embarking on at least 36 international trips to secure investments and strengthen bilateral ties. Well, the president claims these trips have attracted $50 billion in promised investments. However, analysts warn that without ambassadors in place to follow up on these commitments, they risk remaining unfulfilled. We do have global affairs analyst Collins Nweke, who joins us here and now. Welcome and good morning.
Very good morning to you, Joe. Olive and Benga, thank you for having me.
Good morning to you, Mr. Collins Nweke.
All right, so it's been 2 years and counting since President assumed office, yet we do not have ambassadors. How worrying is this? And do you think it has any diplomatic implication for Nigeria?
Oh, well, obviously, it does have, diplomatic impact, negative one, I must add. And here is Nigeria once again making history, global history, for the wrong reasons. I mean, when I got invitation, for this conversation, I just decided to do, a table research to see if there are places in the world where there is, comparable
as the case of Nigeria. So in other words, it doesn't exist anywhere. Yes, we have, some sort of delays during regime changes or austerity periods. For instance, in emerging economies where, they are undergoing reforms or currency crisis, they sometimes differ postings, but rarely has there been something in the scale that Nigeria is seeing now, like Olive reported, nearly a year, 2 years now, and it is unacceptable. And essentially, Nigeria is not, is not present in a number of international fora, but also driving some of those, deals, some of those MOUs and so on and so forth that the president has been sealing in the 36 trips that he's gone through. Now, diplomats, are meant to pursue those deals and follow them through. So yes, there may have been commitments, but those commitments are lying fallow because the ambassadors who have the clout, who have the official note to actually pursue them and follow them up are simply absent, and so that is not happening.
So what would you say, what picture does this paint, looking beyond the impact of this, what picture does this paint about us as a country? And how much part, because right now there are no ambassadors who have the chargé d'affaires who is standing in gap, these diplomats who are maybe standing in gap for the ambassadors pending when the government will decide to reinstate them. We're not even quite sure exactly what happened. I don't know if you have any insight as to why the president decided to terminate the appointment of these ambassadors 4 months into office. Do we have, this is a multi-layered question I've asked you. So do we have an idea why he terminated the ambassadorship 4 months into his office? And what picture does this paint about us as a nation?
Well, the information out there is what we can rely on. I mean, none of us is an insider. You do have, conversations with those who are in a position to know, but some of those things are more or less classified. So in summary, what I can say is that based on the information that the, Foreign Affairs Minister has pushed out there, this is intentional. It is intentional because, according to government, it is part of, the post-inauguration reforms that is, taking place. But there is something quite ironical about, this reform because, we keep hearing of very, very huge expenditures, be it, financing the, presidential infrastructure things, for instance, the vice president's residence. The guy doesn't live in a place or work in a place where the roof is, falling over, and when it rains, it pours on him. No. So those are also matters of priority. And then we also hear of, SUVs, for legislators and all sorts of white elephant projects. So I think it's more of Nigeria not getting its priorities right. Because on the one hand, you have a very, very solidly written and well-articulated, foreign policy mantra under the 4P foreign policy, mantra. And that's on the one hand, beautiful, well-articulated. But on the other hand, you don't have people, ambassadors with the clout and the note to actually drive them. So these are paradoxes that sometimes, confuse the international community, because Nigeria has ambition. For instance, they want to be, they want to have a permanent seat in the UN Security Council. Look at BRICS, for instance. These are fora where one of the, major conditions for obtaining, such favor or at least a privilege is the fact that you have a permanent representation. Nigeria hasn't got that, and so sometimes the impression is created that Nigeria is kind of chasing shadows.
Now, Mr. Collins, some will argue that, the president is taking the role of the chief diplomat. can the president's personal diplomacy compensate for institutional absence? That's one question. And the second leg of my question is, what does this diplomatic vacuum for the thousands of Nigerians in the diaspora who rely on these missions for consular services, protection, and economic engagement mean? And do you have any personal examples of your interaction with the Nigerian embassy in Brussels?
I will start with the last question. I mean, there's no point in being dramatic about some of these things. I must tell you that consular services, at least here in Brussels, where I am, has not been negatively impacted by, the absence of ambassadors, because, you do have consular officers in place. You do have, chargé d'affaires and all of that. So when, for instance, passports expire, or people who are on transit, they are traveling and they encounter problems, they need travel certificate and all of that, those are no issues. So those consular services, they are going well because they are well manned, and the chargé d'affaires and the consular officers do have the authority to sort all of those out. So on that front, there is no problem. And I say this out of experience because I've had one or two people who have either been stranded or are traveling home and have to renew their passport and so on and so forth. They have done that seamlessly at the embassy. I don't know what the story might be in other places. Now, coming to the president taking on the role of the chief diplomat of Nigeria, well, that's fantastic, and he has been very, very energetic in doing that. I mean, we are reminded of his, shuttle diplomacy. We are reminded of President Obasanjo when we see the shuttle diplomacy that, President Tinubu is undertaking, because at that time also Nigeria, saw such. But the point is this, Wenga. When the president goes out there, uses his influence and his personality and his position to seal deals, those MOUs, bilateral agreements and so on and so forth, they are at the macro level. Now, the micro level is actually the ambassadors that then follow through those deals that have been promised, not secured. So it is the role of the ambassadors to secure the deals that the president has sealed when he travels. The absence of ambassadors means that they are not followed through and they are not, actually implemented. Now, I'll give you one example in closing on this. Recently, there was a diplomatic dinner organized, somewhere where, Belgian, Luxembourg, business people were really warming up to meet, Nigeria, because every ambassadorial post, different countries of the world, they had their own table and all of that. The only country that was absent on the table was Nigeria, and it created a whole lot of disappointment, because a number of businesses in renewable energy and so on and so forth were on hand, looking forward. So we're having interaction with the ambassador, but there wasn't one, and nobody attended. But also on the human level, you also see some increasing level of unprofessional conduct, aggressions, and all of that amongst the officers. And linked to this is also payment of their own salaries and all of that. So I mean, there's a whole lot of disillusionment, and we can't take them for granted, really.
Well, one of the questions that comes to mind is the fact that 2 years and counting, we're expecting that by now the president would have announced the list and names of ambassadors, although some names were touted a few months ago where Nigerians single-handedly decided to go on all social media to pick whom they thought would actually play the role of the ambassadors, especially for each country. But now that we've seen that this hasn't happened yet, is it possible that the president can run his entire 4 years without having any ambassadors? And if that happens, or should that happen, will there be any form of implication, especially for this administration?
Well, if that happens, for a start, it will be, making the wrong history because I don't know where that happened. Now, I have, in the course of my intervention so far, highlighted some of the negative impacts. Now, it is to be expected that the diplomatic deficit that is being created with the conspicuous absence of ambassadors will actually be, overwritten when ambassadors are actually appointed. Because very quickly, knowing the crop of, foreign service officers that Nigeria is blessed with, I know, and I am very, very confident that once in position, they will be able to do their level best to see that some of these deficits are actually, wiped away. Of course, some damages may be, too late to actually take care of. Now, imagine a situation where the problem continues for another 2 years. Well, I think very, very many irreparable damages would have been done to Nigeria's international standing, but also some of the promised, investments into Nigeria will never see the light of day because they have not been followed up on. So it can only be imagined if it ever happens. Nigeria would then, be etched in history book as the laughingstock of the world diplomatically.
Now, Mr. Collins Aweke, before we wrap up, I need to ask you this question. It's a very loaded question. We seem to have a reputational problem. Just this morning, I was going through Twitter and I saw this tweet by a popular travel content creator. He does a fantastic job. His name is Stephen Nduku. He says, and I quote, this is the tweet: "If you are a Nigerian going to other people's country and messing things up, God will punish you 100-fold. For the stupid things you do, millions of innocent people have to pay for it." And under the comments, there were lots of comments under that tweet. Some blame the government, some blame politicians, and others blame Nigerians. There's a video that is emanating on social media of Nigerian cultists in Turkey, in Istanbul, fighting themselves. Very disgraceful. And we've seen this in Dubai. And country after country seems to be tightening their noose on Nigerians. And if you, you just need to listen to Nigerians that share their travel experience. NIDCOM, the Nigerian Diaspora Commission, is doing a good job. They're trying their best, but people still go out there to make life harder for upright and upstanding Nigerians. What's your take on this? Whose fault is it? Should the host country, like Belgium, for example, do a better job in screening the type of Nigerians they're letting into their countries? Or is it the fault of politicians, like so many Nigerians have said it? Or is it we, the people, need to do a better job as ambassadors for our nation?
Nigerians are not different from other nationalities in the world. Nigeria happens to be the, largest black population in the world. It is said that 1 in 4 or 5 black persons in the world is Nigeria. So we are prominent. Now, what you seek is what you find. If you are out there seeking only the bad behaving Nigerians, that's what you will find. If you are out there seeking good behaved Nigerians, professionals, young people excelling, second and third generation Nigerians who are surgeons, who are IT experts, artificial intelligence, accountants, bankers, and all of that, you have them in quantum. Now, Nigerians have no reason out here in the diaspora to bury their heads in shame because an insignificant number are actually spoiling their names. No, when they point you to the bad example, point them to the good examples. Now, generally, I think it's a very good thing, of course, for Nigeria to continue that work of, cleaning up image, preaching good behavior, and so on and so forth. But we have no reasons as Nigerians to feel that those who put all Nigerians in one box as bad people are right. They're not right. They are completely wrong, because there are a lot of good things going for Nigeria that are capable of wiping out the few bad things that are out there. But it is all a matter of projection. Most Nigerians out here will choose to project the good of Nigeria. And those who choose to project, the negative side of Nigeria, good luck to them. But I don't think Nigerians have any reasons to bury their heads in shame.
Thank you very much for clarifying
Thank
the
you so
on
much.
that and for your fantastic opinion. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, Mr. Collins Oweke. We do appreciate your insights and contribution to the subject. Thank you so much.
Always my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, let's move on now to another story and tell you that the Delta State Police Command has arrested a 41-year-old self-acclaimed medical laboratory technician for operating an illegal blood bank from his one-room apartment in Ugburikoko over a local government area. The suspect is accused of luring underage children to donate blood. Guess for how much? 5,000 naira. Then sells the pints to hospitals for as much as 13,500 naira. News Central's Austin Azu tells us more.
The Delta State Police Command, led by spokesperson Bright Daffy, invited pressmen to this apartment, the alleged site of an unauthorized and illegal blood bank. Here, officers recovered multiple pints of blood and equipment used by the suspect, a self-proclaimed licensed lab technician.
This is the place where he runs his illegal blood bank, and you can see how dirty the premises is. It's clearly unregistered, and it's operating this place illegally, where he collects blood from vulnerable youths and pays them 5,500 naira, and according to him, he also sells for about 13,500 and so on.
Edafe explained how the suspect was caught and gave details about the operation, including how minors were targeted and exploited.
On the 25th of July 2025, the DPO Ogborikoko at about 11:00 hours received an intel that a particular suspect, who is a medical lab scientist, like we have been made to understand, operates an illegal blood bank. We call it illegal because even though he claimed that he's licensed to do this, it is unregistered, and there is no state or federal government monitoring mechanism in place, or even the state and federal government are not even aware that he's running this place.
The suspect admitted to the crime and explained his motivations, claiming hardship drove him into the trade.
My office was raided on the 25th of this month because of the unhygienic environment, and it's unregistered. I am sorry for my action, my regrettable action.
In a separate development, the police also arrested a 24-year-old man accused of defiling a 7-year-old girl. In Delta, for News Central, Austin Azu.
I mean, what an absolute shocking report there from Austin Azu. And the worst part is this bloods that have been donated are not even tested for diseases. But I will continue to follow up on that. And kudos to the Nigerian Police Force Delta State Command for bringing that information to the fore. And a fantastic job in arresting the suspect. You're watching Breakfast Central. We'll go on a quick break, and when we return, we will be bringing you breakfast headlines. Do stay with us. Well, residents and electorates in Rivers State have expressed skepticism about participating in the forthcoming local government elections scheduled for 30th of August 2025. The Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission on Monday unveiled a revised timetable for the election, with majority of the activities scheduled to hold 1 or 2 days before. Meanwhile, expression of interest by political parties came to a close today. News Central's Biola Festus reports that a meeting between RCEC and political party chairman in Rivers State was held on Wednesday, and the media was denied access to the event.
I'm a voter, I'm a resident here for the past 24 years. I'm not even aware that there's going to be an election, except if they're doing it within a caucus. So, and I don't think it's the best approach. The people have to be duly informed, and they have to be campaigners.
The sole administrator not having the constitutional rights to conduct elections. And then I will now buttress it more by saying that we are not ready. You can't fix an election now. And then we still need to know, in fact, there is a lot involved in this thing. The governor should be the one to conduct elections. As for me, I'm not voting, and I advise anybody I know not to come out and vote.
As long the governor is not in a seat, so I don't look at it like something that I'm ready to come out and vote.
Out of those 19 political parties that have gained interest, we have 2 that their positions are being contested by other persons. They were having more than 1 chairman in these 2 political parties. So as a commissioner in charge of the political parties and monitoring, I decided to ask them to go back home to resolve their differences and come back to me. But actually today is the last day of for expression of interest form.
Headlines, and we begin with judicial matters. A federal high court sitting in Abuja has struck out a case challenging the long-delayed construction of over 500 healthcare centers across Nigeria. The suit questioned the legality of an 85 billion naira contract approved as far back as 2007. However, in its ruling, the court held that the plaintiffs lacked the legal standing to initiate the case. The judgment effectively brings an end to the legal challenge despite ongoing public concern over the status of the health facilities.
It is a legal battle for 2 lawyers who challenged a contract for the construction of healthcare centers in Nigeria's 774 local government areas. The 85 billion naira project approved by the Federal Executive Council in 2007 had faced delays, and the plaintiff claimed many LGAs, including theirs, never saw a single structure. The court, however, says that they had no business bringing up the case. Justice Mohammed Umar ruled that only those directly involved in the contract can question it in court, not third parties or what he called busybodies. The lawyers had argued that the local government chairman were sidelined and never consented to the project. But the central bank in court document said otherwise, confirming that over 580 centers have already been built. Lawyers for the Minister of Finance and other defendants asked the court to dismiss the case, saying the plaintiff lacked legal standing to sue. The trial judge agreed and dismissed the case, saying public interest cannot be used as a shortcut to interfere in contracts, especially when those truly affected haven't complained. The suit was struck out, but it remains to be seen whether the plaintiffs will appeal the ruling. In Abuja, for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
And now to politics. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has issued a strong warning against underage and multiple voter registrations ahead of the continuous voter registration exercise set to begin in Kebbi State on August 18th. At a press briefing in Benin, Kebbi, Resident Electoral Commissioner Alhaji Abubakar Sarkin Power Dambo emphasized that illegal registrations, including registration by proxy or multiple attempts, will not be tolerated. Online pre-registration starts August 18th, followed by in-person registration from August 25 at all INEC area offices operating 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on weekdays. Over 2 million voters are registered in Kebbi with a 97% permanent voter card collection rate. Citizens who turned 18 or need card replacement are encouraged to register promptly. In the meantime, residents and electorates in River States have expressed skepticism about participating in the forthcoming local government elections scheduled for 30th August 2025. The River State Independent Electoral Commission on Monday unveiled a revised timetable for the election, with majority of the activities scheduled to hold 1 or 2 days apart. Meanwhile, expression of interest by political parties came to a close on Wednesday and New Central's Bola Festus was there at a meeting between RCEC and political party chairman in River State that was held on Wednesday, and the media was denied access to the event.
I'm a resident here for the past 24 years. I'm not even aware that there's going to be an election, except if they're doing it within a caucus. So, I don't think it's the best approach. The people have to be duly informed, and they have to be campaigners.
The sole administrator not having the constitutional rights to conduct elections. And then I will now buttress it more by saying that we are not ready. We can't fix an election now. And then we still need to know, in fact, there is a lot involved in this thing. The governor should be the one to conduct elections. As for me, I'm not voting, and I advise anybody I know not to come out and vote.
As long the governor is not in a seat, so I don't look at it like something that I'm ready to come out and vote.
Out of those 19 political parties that have gained interest, we have 2 that their positions are being contested by other persons. They haven't more than one chairman in these 2 political parties. So as a commissioner in charge of the political parties and monitoring, I decided to ask them to go back home to resolve their differences and come back to me. But actually today is the last day of for expression of interest form.
And now to agriculture. The federal government has announced plans to establish modern cattle breeding centers across Nigeria's 6 geopolitical zones. The initiative, aimed at transforming the livestock industry, is part of the Tinubu's administration's broader strategy to improve food security and reduce conflicts between herders and farmers. Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, made the disclosure during the Citizens Government Engagement and Midterm Assessment event in Kaduna, organized by Sir Amadu Bello Memorial Foundation. According to Abdullahi, the centers will serve as livestock hubs, promoting structured animal husbandry in partnership with key ministries, including Environment, Water Resources, Livestock Development, and the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy. He explained that this modern approach would enhance meat and dairy production, reduce communal clashes, and replace outdated nomadic practices. And now to East Africa. A court in Malindi has authorized police to exhume multiple shallow graves found near the site of the notorious 2023 Shakahola Forest Massacre in Kenya, one of the deadliest cult-related tragedies in recent history. Over 400 people, many of them children, died after being starved or suffocated under the influence of an extremist religious group led by self-proclaimed pastor Paul Ntenge Mackenzie. The victims were followers of Mackenzie's Good News International Ministries, which preached apocalyptic beliefs and urged members to starve themselves to meet Jesus. And in Asia, nearly 283,000 people have been evacuated from vulnerable coastal and low-lying areas as Typhoon Kolmei hit Shanghai on Wednesday evening. The city's meteorological observatory issued an orange rainstorm alert, the second highest warning level, as heavy rain and strong winds flooded the streets. Around 640 flights were cancelled and ferry and train services faced disruptions. With the storm causing widespread damage, the city is working to ensure the safety of residents as it braces for more severe weather.
我们这个安置点呢，是在昨天下午2点半左右接到一个要安置撤离人员的一个通知。那么我们这边就及时马上的就是进行一个场所的清理然后呢把政府提供过来的一个床啊、铺子啊，就是大家一起齐心协力的把它清洁好、铺好，就是等待安置人员的到。 总体上我们上海地区应该说还是可控的、平稳的。但是呢，我们政府呢，对于就是预防这一些灾害性的天气呢，它也有相应的一个应急措施。一旦就是发生这种情况呢，我们就按照这个方案预警的方案，我们就是采取行动，就是也有相应的指挥部进行一个专门的调配，我们跟着指挥部的命令执行。
就是昨天下午是公司老板通知每个连队的人，就是说那个房子是有点危房，就是为了大家的安全，所以把大家都请到这里来，然后就是每天3顿饭，他都是给你吃饱吃好，然后就是卫生呀各方面的搞得挺。去年台风，反正就是好像也打坏了几个棚子，那个台风特别大。如果你不来的话，真的是我感觉住在连队里挺危险的。所以我们还是，反正我们也积极配合领导，对吧？为了我们自己的安全。
And that's all at this hour. We continue with Breakfast Central. Thank you for watching.
Welcome back. The front pages are here, and most definitely we'll be infusing a little bit of the drawing board to find out what's really going on, especially looking at the federal government's priorities. But then again, Binga, the papers.
Yes, we have Oade Ime here. He needs no introduction. Fantastic analyst from Nairametrics, and is here to help us dissect and analyze the newspaper front pages. Let's go straight to the leadership newspaper. That's our first paper we'll be looking at this morning. The headline says, "Patients stranded as nurses, midwives strike hits hospitals nationwide." Yet another industrial action, this time from the nurses. Let's not forget that the Nigerian Medical Association is in day 5 of its 21-day warning strike. Also on the front page of the leadership papers, only Tinubu can end Zamfara insecurity, not Governor Lawal, says Shinkafi. And IPB demands laws to guarantee democratic dividends. And also on the front page of the leadership paper, LCCI others slam NNPC's no-sale decision on Port Harcourt refinery. I think we should start with that. The NNPC is saying they're not going to sell. Meanwhile, we've been pumping money into that basket. It's like pouring water into a basket. It's just leaking. And we're yet to see the Port Harcourt refinery function. So do you agree with the MD of NNPC on this no-sale policy? And what's your take on this story?
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here again today. So first, he didn't say no sale completely. He said it's still something that they can discuss. It's on the table. However, for now, they need to be sure that they can work out all the things that they're working on. He also mentioned the fact that he doesn't think that they should have actually started the process of refining at the point at which they started, while those maintenance were still going on. But in my own opinion,
they wanted to prove a point. Yeah.
I don't know about proving a point. But in my own opinion, I think 2 things. One, if you're going to sell, which is what I believe it should be, sell it to people who believe that they can run a business of refining and ensure that the refining process of crude is done, and treat it like a business. Or secondly, if the GMD is now saying no sale by the NNPC, then NNPC must run the refineries like a business. It generates its revenue, it pays for its costs, whether they have exclusive rights to 450,000 barrels, because I remember one time we had analyzed the fact that if you take 450,000 barrels at a cost and you're not paying back, then one day you're just going to find out that there's no money from the people who are producing and giving it to you. So if that's the way he sees it and says, oh, let's run it as a true business and run those refineries and get out the 16 or 17 byproducts from crude, which will go into the economy, and we start to see it. So you might start to see petrochemical industries come back into Nigeria. Like I always say, growing up in Nigeria, I remember a lot of industries, shampoos, relaxers, they were all operating in Nigeria. And one of the reasons for that was because it was cheaper, because you could get those byproducts from crude, from the petrochemical, what's it called, in Eleme, and it was being sold. Kessinshin, Satinshin, or just name them. Some of them, I'm sure a number of people don't even know them. But that's the fact.
Olive used to use Kessinshin in university.
They have not born
in law school.
Please.
No, that's not what the one he's talking about.
Anyway, anyway, so at the end of the day, if that's the way he sees it should be run, like a business that's going to generate his revenue, that's going to pay for his costs, are you with me? And then the profits from that will now be paid, if you want to pay it all, as dividends to the federal government, who own the 100% of the refineries. Yes, it makes sense. But if it's just going to be another sinking government's money, taxpayers' money into those refineries and just not getting anything out of it, then I think it should be sold, which, as it is now, in my own opinion, I think it should be sold.
Okay, let's take another story from the front page of the Leadership newspaper. Patients stranded as nurses midwives strikes hit hospitals nationwide. Now, bear in mind that this organization is called the National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives, NANNM, and they began a 7-day warning strike right after they've just concluded a 15-day ultimatum issued by NANNM to the federal government. They have disrupted healthcare services across Nigeria. So if you visit several federal medical centers, you will see that they are on strike. It's really caused some sort of dysregulation in the hospitals.
Yeah, I mean, you know the importance of nurses.
Exactly. My auntie went to one of the hospitals, the Lagos State, what's that one at Ikeja?
Teaching hospital, Lasut, Lagos State University
Is
Teaching
that what it's
Hospital.
called? The one at Ikeja on that bridge?
Lasut, yes.
She went there and she couldn't see a doctor because
the Lagos State doctors are on strike.
They are on strike. So doctors are on strike, nurses and midwives are on strike, and it just feels like we hear this rinse, repeat, day in, year in, week out. Do we really, like, is there really like an end in sight to these incessant strikes we're seeing in the healthcare sector? Bear in mind, people are still, women are pregnant, women are going to try to give birth. If nurses and midwives are on strike, the impact of this on healthcare.
Private schools and private hospitals are very expensive.
Exactly, not everybody can afford them. Not everybody has insurance.
Where do I start from?
Honestly, it's a valid.
Yeah, it is a valid question, and we continue to say in Nigeria that we're not even providing primary health care, which for a lot of primary health care, you need nurses. You need more nurses than doctors, in my own opinion. Why? Because they manage the hospitals. They manage the inpatients. They manage the outpatients who come in to register, to check your what's it called? What do you call
your pulse,
your blood pressure, and a number of
vitals.
Yes. So if they are on strike and nobody is doing that, then what it then means is that hospitals are completely grounded. Who is going to give you an injection?
Yeah, people were returned home yesterday.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So who's going to give you an injection if a doctor sees you?
Imagine the number of people that would die in this period.
Maybe they won't die, but
they could die.
They won't die. That's why I said maybe they won't die. You see, I didn't say they won't die. I said maybe.
Hopefully it's not our prayer that they do.
However,
hope is not a strategy.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Can I report some of them? Because I'm seeing in the papers here, they've gone to do certain interviews. Someone says, I've been here for almost 2 hours to see a doctor. I have to leave and go to an open shop to get some drugs. So there's self-medication. You don't even know what you're feeling, what is causing the sickness, and now you're going to treat yourself. Another one says that he was feeling feverish and then he went to the hospital.
The truth of it is that we can go on and on and on and on, but the fact remains that nurses are on strike. There are demands that have been made, like many other associations in Nigeria have made those demands. And what is the government doing in terms of all that? We continue to say we are not providing health care, we are not providing education, we are not providing security. What are we doing? You know, the report that came out a couple of days ago that everybody's been talking about, we're building government houses, We're building communication places. The Minister for Federal Capital Territory spent 39 billion renovating where you don't use every day. Meanwhile, hospitals are not being renovated. Nurses are demanding for better conditions of service. Doctors are demanding for better conditions of service. And all this, rather, some governors will build new government houses that they will stay for 6 months before they finish their term. And then the next one comes in and says, oh, we need to renovate and all. So we need to, first and foremost, let's focus on what are the main priorities for us.
I like the word. You just cued me in there.
Infrastructure development.
Being, I remember from yesterday, you've been highlighting priorities.
Priorities.
And that's what we want to look at in the course of this conversation. Yes. Priorities.
What are the priorities?
What are the priorities?
Priorities for me should be security in terms of providing the right architecture and equipment for security. Second, education, meaning that better school opportunities, better teaching.
Better classrooms.
Let's even forget the classroom. Let's have more teachers. Believe me. No, but they're not classrooms now. Everybody talks about arrows-free education. Some of them were done under trees. People talk about Jacondi's.
But this is 2025. This is 2025.
Let me finish. No, let me finish. People talk about Jacondi's free education. They say it was a poultry shed. Some people in these governments went to those poultry sheds. I know someone particular. My mother taught in those poultry sheds, and some of them have become big Nigerians. Let's talk about healthcare. Health centers all over Lagos, Federal. What has happened to them? We don't fund them. We don't provide the things that are required. So how do you even do primary health care? So what are our priorities? Security, lives and properties. One, education. Because when people start to know, they know how to look after themselves. And then it leads into health care. So security, education, health care. For me,
you know what? Sorry, let me just
not petrol in petrol stations.
Let me just go to the drawing board. Okay. I think we need to break it down a little more to understand what the deal really is. If we have 3 priorities that we have to take, especially because since yesterday we've been talking about this priority issue, and I'm happy it's in the newspapers. Before we go to our next story, what is your top 3 priority?
Education.
But they've not paid.
No, don't influence his decision. And I will explain. You give me 30 seconds to explain.
Okay, fine.
Education. Health. And then security. And let me name the 3 for you. Where you have good education, people know what to do to look after themselves.
Okay.
People know that you don't self-medicate. And then it translates into better healthcare understanding. When you should go to hospitals. And then, when you have all those things, educated people who are well, then you can now start to talk about securitizing your communities. Do you understand?
Right.
Your communities. So, these are the 3 things that link it for me. If you don't know what you don't know, you can't deal with. And that's how I will just do that. I will prioritize that. What you don't know, I can't deal with.
Fantastic.
Let me go to Gwenga before I go to Olive. Gwenga, top 3 priorities.
Number 1, security. My reason is if you're not alive, how can you access health and education?
Okay.
So you need to stay alive first.
Security.
Number 2, economy.
Economy is broad, Gwenga.
Inflation. So inflation
Is it inflation
and
the
consumer
overall health of the economy? A viable, productive economy.
So yes, I think economy
is fine. He's right.
Okay. So, economy takes care of, great minds think alike. We're both Leos.
I
know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I know.
So economy takes care of security in a sense.
Yes.
Okay. When people are working, when you have a productive population that are hardworking and going about their daily duties, nobody will be on the street and looking to steal generators.
So some people will still be there, but will not be as much as
if you steal a side mirror in the United Kingdom, for example, will you find a buyer? You can't, because it doesn't even, you can't begin to think at that pedestrian level. we need to move beyond Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We need to be aspirational. We need to move beyond. I mean, how can we
also planning to go on strike?
Teachers first.
Teachers first.
welfare.
Teachers welfare. Classes where students could learn. And what happened to the 1 meal per day plan? The students are not
that was under Buhari's government.
It was to be restarted under this administration as well. It was mentioned that it will be started.
They're working out the modalities.
They still don't get it.
And we're taking loans to do palliative.
And then security. Under security, the police officers just did what? They just protested that they've not been paid their gratuities and pensions. And the salary is still poor. So basically, I think we've highlighted the top 3. This is the database. The question now is, what is the presidency looking at? Are they looking
And
at
the
same
presidency's
direction?
priority, you mentioned infrastructure.
Their priority, infrastructure, which I don't know if you agree.
And number 2, priorities. 2027 and giveaway.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. In as much as they would deny this, it's starting to look too popular.
From last year, we've all agreed that by the end of this year,
we've had some of the guests.
But in fairness to them, in fairness to the government, we are the ones that are driving this 2027 conversation.
That's
the government didn't come out to say
government
this
is
is policy.
It's not
on
government's
2027.
responsibility to drive 2027.
We can
it's the
ignore the
political
noise.
class.
So what's the top 3?
We can ignore the noise.
Before I sit down, we move.
2027 election.
Infrastructure, 2027. What else?
Those are the 2 things I see.
Why is it so hard for us?
It's hard. It's
Can
hard.
you see?
It's very hard.
What the government is
reforms, economic reforms.
Okay, so let's say economy.
Floating of the naira, removal of
So
fuel
let's just leave it as
subsidy.
economy. No, let's leave it as economy.
Okay, economy.
And our GDP has grown by whooping 3.1%.
So we have economy there.
And inflation has gone down to 22%.
So, top 3. Are we going to substitute this top 3 for ours? I don't know, but this is what we have.
No, but like I said earlier, that first one, you can relate it to all of it.
Yeah, infrastructure cuts across all of it, yes.
And except you are looking at, like, if you are looking at human capital as not infrastructure.
I'm not looking at that as infrastructure.
But it is.
The infrastructure of the hospital, of the school, the security architecture.
No. Let me tell you one thing. What are assets? Infrastructure are assets that build things.
We're not arguing.
I'm not arguing with you. And so I'm just telling you that when you look at Nigeria, one of Nigeria's biggest infrastructure is the human.
Of course, the largest population in Africa.
So, like you said, if you are not paying doctors, and not paying nurses, and not paying teachers, in the last 1 year, we know how many teachers and doctors and nurses have left Nigeria in the last 2 years to the UK alone.
And there are many more are still planning to go on to the UK. Just put a new
vacancy.
Sorry?
Vacancy?
No, no more. They just stopped it.
But there's another country that will open up.
That's another thing.
The UK is not the only country.
Exactly.
Anyway.
But that's all. I just wanted us to look at this. So we've highlighted that healthcare, security, economy is our priority. Hopefully the government is also looking at what is priority and not the other way around. Maybe the nurses and doctors will not go on strike if they are paid. The policemen will not come on the streets and ask for their money.
Policemen can't go on strike.
The policemen can't go on strike, but they won't come on the streets. Those who just retired,
they can't go on strike.
They won't come on the streets.
I don't know what allowed them to protest. But let's go on.
That's all. That's all I'm just taking a look at. Maybe we'll look at another paper at this point.
All right.
On a personal note, what's your priority after the show?
My priority?
Yeah.
We should ask our audience.
Exactly. After the show,
what's your priority? Maybe we should ask the audience what their priorities are.
Tweet us. Yes.
What their priorities are. What you think should be priority for this administration. Because we also feel that people are not really talking about what priorities should be, especially for the government. Nobody's saying anything. But if the government finds out that, this is what people are really talking about, this is what they really need, they may be able to say, okay, no, let's shift our attention for the next 2 years and solve it.
All right, let's come to the next paper. We have another paper. Let's look at the Punch newspaper. And on the front page of the Punch, federal government eyes 796 billion naira annually from 5% petrol surcharge. Customers decry new fuel tax after subsidy removal as law commences January 2026. Port Harcourt refinery not for sale, NNPC says. Varsity students to face drug tests, says Education Minister.
I like that.
I think everybody in the country should.
I like it. Everybody.
Yes.
Everybody. From top to bottom. I'm sure you're wondering why I'm laughing. Why I'm laughing so much. And I'm please, I'm so sorry about that.
I agree. Why are you laughing though? It's a very serious issue.
And I agree that it's a very serious issue. But you know, my first question is this. You say university students should undergo drug tests. That's from the Minister of Education.
Yeah.
What are the implications to the Ministry of Health? Has anybody thought about that? Because it's not the doctors. Now you can see all those linkages.
Well, maybe it's not going to be anything that has to be.
I mean,
done
you don't
by
need
serious
doctors to
medical
come. You
personnel.
need
have to
test
be a
kits
breathalyzer, first of all, to check your alcohol, your breath. Then they
so where is the education? Okay, so you know how to use a breathalyzer.
So they need education.
Wait now. You know how to use.
It's usually the police, although we don't have that. Like if you're driving.
Okay, they're not even testing for alcohol consumption.
No, I'm just saying, for example,
yes.
I think all of them, I don't know, Sha, maybe it's not, you're right.
You
so it's drugs, they'll just check if.
Okay, so where
the
the
people that check
linkage?
for drugs, for example.
It's blood, no? You need blood sample.
So who's going to take it? The nurses?
There's that.
Then
but at the airport.
Those technology people that went on strike.
No, the lab scientists are not on strike.
They went on strike.
But they're not.
Okay, but let's stop looking at the obstacles. Let's look at the reasoning behind it, because the quality of people that they find in universities, the high incidence of cultism and all of that. So they want to make sure that people that are admitted into the university are upstanding and are proper mental capability to be able to function properly in the Ivory institution. I don't think it has to do with the Ministry of Health or anything. It's just they don't want a certain type of people in universities, and that might be the basis for the
who determines a certain kind of people? Because every institution has criteria for admissions. Let's stop just throwing things
you can
up
score
and down.
350 in JAM, but you fail your drug test.
Go back home.
No admission.
So I need to also ask this question. And Benga, please, maybe you can help me out. I scored 350 in JAM. So late now, I didn't score 350 in JAM.
Okay.
Which kind of drug should I not, I don't know.
Narcotics.
Okay. So how about those who have, what's it called? What do you call them? Prescription drugs, addictions.
Medically prescribed.
Yes.
There are always exceptions. There are exceptions
opioids.
to rules. There are exceptions to rules.
So you see, when you make broad statements, are you with me? And that's the question I'm trying to ask. Have you determined the number of all these things? It's not
universities do it all.
Yeah, and because that's why I said but what did I say now? There are universities have guidelines for you to be in universities. Some private universities do them because it's part of their guidelines. It's part of the things that you read for you to enter this university, and you sign up to it once you agree and accept that acceptance form. So there are so many things that you always need to put together, in my own opinion.
I get what you mean, but I see the spirit of what they're trying to do. Because there have been arguments about how in a number of private universities, generally in universities, how a number of these students abuse drugs. It's why they set up, NDLA sets up shop in some of these universities.
And I agree. And I agree with that. And like I said, these are things that you have, there are systematic things that you have to put in place. That's why some private universities didn't just wake up and started testing for drugs. Some things came about, or they just decided that, for us to make our institution free of violence or extremism, we need to do a few things. And then you put those policies in place and put them properly and ensure that at the end of the day, you know how to administer them. Because it involves healthcare service.
Anyway, let's look at another story very quickly. Let's see, do we have another paper to look into? Yes.
All right, we have
the Daily Trust. Bandits on renewed rampage in Katsina. Remember that just yesterday,
Mr.
and
Daniel
just 2
Bwala.
days ago, some of the presidential, you'd say, people from the presidency, you know, were saying that insecurity has died down. Everything is working fine. But look, bandits on renewed rampage in Katsina. Villages evicted, forced into peace deals.
This is terrible.
Let's just take that story. Let's take that story.
Can we deal with these insecurity issues? Because these are, I mean, we are facing asymmetrical warfare. It's guerrilla warfare. They're not going against the standing army. So there would always be this hit and run cases and hitting of soft targets. And then we term it as general insecurity. Can this be nipped in the bud?
Yes, you can. So my thinking is this. People will rebel against what they feel they don't like. But it's not everybody that wants to rebel. There is no, many times you hear that one person can commit a fraud. So in my own opinion also, I don't think one person can really commit a crime. You know, there are insiders who provide some form of information. But we've shown our priorities here today, and we're looking at all of them, and it just comes back or piggybacks back to all those things. People don't even know what is happening, which comes from that educational part. Who do you report to? Going to report, or what are the mechanisms for reporting? People who can't feed, do you get? And these people provide you some form of cover. Yes, they take taxes from you, but sometimes come back and give you tell you that, okay, because you pay taxes, we will guide you so that you can go to your farms or do your businesses and so on. Healthcare, you don't have primary health care, no nurses. Nurses are on strike. Even when you have a nurse, they don't have the things that they used to require. So a number of things. Community relationships have gone, they no longer exist in Nigeria, in my own opinion. And so how do you nip all this insecurity in the bud? In those days when you are growing up and then you see a truant on your street, everybody continues to talk about it until maybe one day something happens, and then when the police comes to arrest the person, they say, well, we've been telling you, we've been reporting to you, and nobody does anything. And this is what has happened. Everybody just says, oh, me, myself, and I. And until we go back to that community relations.
Which is police, you support state policing, right?
But community security and relations doesn't
all right,
mean
let's at least take one call before we wrap up. We have Osas calling from Port Harcourt. Good morning, Osas. Please go ahead with your comment.
Good morning, Oliver Modi.
Good morning.
Welcome back to the studio.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Osas.
You are pointing your hand because you want to end my call again. Please, let me just quickly drop this. I want to respond to those federal government appointees that went to Kaduna, including the Ghana state government. Tinubu has done well.
The audio is a bit low. We don't know if it's from your end or from our sound end, but can you please project? We can barely hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, but you sound very faint.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, please go ahead. We'll try to pick.
Me?
Yes, okay. Go ahead.
Let me go. Okay, let me go ahead. You know, Obasanjo made a statement that the northern governors have received more money. Have received more money than from President Tinubu, more than every other president. And you see the federal government official also saying, oh, President Tinubu has appointed more officials. But that is not what the people want to hear. Is it by appointment? They are not telling us the details. If the governor say you have received more money, the thing is, what have you done with the money? Show to us that, okay, because of the money you received from the federal government, you've been able to do this, you've been able to do that. Then the federal government appointee, because you've been appointed as so, the security like the NSA saying, oh, he's one of the appointees. What happened to your water? Being an appointee of the federal government, have we been able to stop insecurity in the north? It's not about saying this is what the federal government has appointed, this has given you more money. The result is what we want. When you are campaigning for him, give us the result. But because you were able to, the government has appointed you as this agriculture minister, then we have more food. The farmers are now secure in Benue, they are now secure in Place 2. That is what we want to hear. It seems that these people don't even reason before they come out to talk. Why are you telling us that the government has given you more money, but you don't even have proof to show the people? It's about the people. Government is about the people. It's not about appointment. Okay, let people go ahead and appoint everybody then. Let everybody be in the federal government. Then we cannot look, everybody is okay. It's not about appointing you. What have you done? That is what we want to know. It's not about people has done this, he has not cheated enough, he has appointed more. The result, the people should be able to tell us. You should be able to show to the people, this is the result. Okay, appointing you is the result. I don't understand. Then which country are we? If appointing you is the result for you to tell us that Tinubu is doing well, is that a country? So that is my point, my dear brothers and sisters. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for that.
Important point made by Osas. I absolutely agree with him. 100%.
What's the end product? What have you done?
Of the appointment.
It's results now.
Results.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I mean, we have to get out of the studio. We have less than a minute. But, I mean, any final thoughts, any closing thoughts on any of the stories that we've picked on?
Insecurity.
It's something that we need to deal with.
We just need to deal with it. And insecurity is not, like I always say, it's not just about the security architecture or the government. It's about all of us Nigerians speaking to insecurity. You see things that are not seemingly looking right, then let's say it. But also the security architecture and apparatus should also ensure that they are able to provide us an easy way or an easier way for us to get information across to them.
Absolutely. And kudos to the Daily Trust for putting that as a big story.
They always
because it feels
do that.
like whenever there are
They always do
incidences of insecurity, we now put them in the corner because we're sort of becoming desensitized to that. This does it for us today. We'll be back again next month. Thank you for joining us today on Breakfast Central.
Yeah, next
Tomorrow
month.
is the 1st of August. See you next month and have a wonderful rest of your July.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.